All right, in this video, we're going to talk about translating phrases into one-step and two-step equations, and then looking at different kinds of relationships when we see certain words. So it's very important that we're paying attention to the way a problem is worded, because simply changing the order or a specific word can completely change the problem. So the way we communicate, especially in math, can make a big difference. So we want to make sure that we understand some of the basic words and what they mean. So on your notes page, you should see something like this. And then it's just a cute little organizer. So we're going to put the words that have to do with addition in the addition symbol, subtraction in the subtraction, division, and then multiplication. And I know we don't really use an X for multiplication anymore, but you know, it's kind of one of those things that's been ingrained in us for a very long time to use that X for multiplication. So it's just kind of my placeholder here for multiplication. All right, so some of the really easy ones would be like the words plus or add, addition. So these words, hopefully, we recognize pretty quickly, right? Plus, add, addition, those are telling us very specifically what do I need to do. But we can also use words like sum. This means that we are going to add the next terms that we're being given. So usually we see like the sum of, and then we can hear like A and 4. And so we would say, you know, the sum of A and 4 would be A plus 4, right? So something like that. We also have added to. That's very similar to these other guys that are kind of more common. We can have more than. That can also mean addition. Okay. Or increased by. Increased by. So all of these things, if I hear these words, can mean they're signifying that I need to add something to the together. All right. And then for subtraction, so we can have, you know, subtraction, subtraction. I almost started spelling that funny. Or minus. So again, these are the kind of two more common words that just very straightforward tell me what I'm doing. But most of the time what we're going to hear is the word difference. So if I hear the difference of, that again, it's kind of like sum. It means the next terms are going to be subtracted in the sentence. And then less than, that's telling me to take away. Instead of more than, I'm going less than. And then subtracted, that's just like subtraction, so I don't necessarily think we need to put subtraction and subtracted, but I guess I put add and addition over here, so why not? Subtracted, just kind of different tenses of the word there. The other one is this was increased by, this could be decreased by. So again, just words that signify what do I need to be doing. All right, division, there's more limited ones at this point. So we can do divide, not divided, divide, or divided by, like that. So those are, again, those are kind of the common ones. But one of the bigger words that they're going to start using is the word quotient. So again, this is kind of like the words, and I'm even going to circle these ones. So sum, difference, quotient, and we'll have one for multiplication here. These are like the answers to these types of problems. Hopefully that makes sense. So the sum of the solution is after you've added them together. The difference is after you subtracted them. The quotient is the answer after you've divided them. So that's kind of the commonality between those ones. They don't really use too many other words at this time. For these ones, we may come across more as we move forward, but for now, these are the ones that we're going to focus on. And then for multiplication, we have multiply, times. So those are kind of, you know, our two basic words for multiplication, or multiplication, just having those two things. We could also say multiply by, multiplied by. Okay. But a lot of the time what they're going to use is the word product. And again, that's that kind of answer to a multiplication problem. It's the product of the two pieces, or however many pieces we're multiplying. And this is an O, sorry, product. Simply hearing the word of in a sentence means multiplication. That's a big one. So product or of, those are ones that are used a lot. Or sometimes they'll just tell you how many times to multiply by. So twice, that means I'm multiplying by 2. Or triple, that means I'm multiplying by 3. They could say, I don't think I've seen it yet, but they could say quadruple. That would be to multiply by 4. So sometimes those words tell us just, not only are we multiplying, but they're telling us what to multiply by with that one word. All right. So now that we've filled this in, we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the problems there. Darn it, I hate it when that moves over because then blocks part of my screen there. All right, so first we're going to translate a couple into one-step expressions, meaning there's only going to be one piece after each one of these. So 45 is the difference of Diane's height and 16. Sorry, I didn't mean to say one piece. I said that funny. I want to correct that. One operator is a better way to say that. All right, so 45, hopefully that's very straightforward. We see that number. And 16, that's very straightforward. We see that number. One thing we didn't go over on the other screen there is the word is. So these are actually not expressions. I need to change these because we have the word is. This is an equation. So I think I accidentally forgot to change the wording here because these will be equations. Oh, those are expressions though. So that one's okay. But because I see the word is, this is not an expression. This is an equation. I have two sides of an equation. I have an equal sign. So is means equals. So I have my 45, I have my equals, and I know I'm going to do something with 16. So difference of, remember, if we go back to that page, that was one of the ones I circled in red, because it's a very common one, these ones that I circled in red. So difference tells me that I'm going to subtract the next things that are told to me. And it's going to, in this case, it's going to be the next two things. So I'm not just going to automatically put minus here. I'm going to subtract the next two things. So I need to take into account the next two things. So I have Diane's height, that's one thing, and 16. So, and then they do tell me to use D to represent Diane's height. So it's not just going to be minus D16. I need to make sure that I arrange it in the correct way. It's going to be Diane's height minus 16, like this. So I have 45 equals Diane's height minus 16. So this is just the kind of basic way to write a one-step equation. They're not asking us to solve it, just to write it, just to translate it. But we could very easily go through and solve. We'll start doing those things here in the next couple of weeks when we're actually solving equations. All right, so I have 120. So hopefully that's, again, very straightforward. Is, so that's that word signifying we do have an equal sign. And that is the word that they will use. They will either use equals or is. The product of Helen's score and 8. So again, I have 8. And the numbers are pretty straightforward. They're not even putting them in word form. They're just leaving them in number form. So product. If I go back over here, that's down here. Product was circled in red. So this may take us a little bit of time to get used to, exactly where these words are. But the more we practice them, the more we will be able to identify them without necessarily having to kind of go back and look at them each time. So you want to kind of get to the point where you have them a little bit memorized so that you don't have to constantly go back and look. But product means multiply the next two pieces. So I have Helen's score and 8. And they're telling me to use H for Helen's score. And I'm going to multiply. And usually we use a little dot. We don't use that X anymore. But because it's H times 8, I'm not going to write H times 8 like that. Alex won't let me put the dot in. What it's just going to ask me to do is kind of smush them together. That also means multiplication. When I see a number and a variable next to each other, it means that number times the variable. All right. Translating a phrase into a two-step expression. So this time we do not have an equal sign. We just have one side like this. That would be an expression. So we're only going to have one side. We're not going to have the equal to part. So 14, more than twice Greg's age. So more than, again, if we go back over here and we look for more than, here it is right here. I wrote it in the plus section. So I know I'm going to add the next couple pieces. So more than tells me I'm adding. Twice, remember that was that word that I wrote down here at the bottom. It's not only telling me I'm multiplying, but it's telling me I'm multiplying specifically by 2. Okay, just hearing that word, I know that I'm going to multiply by 2. So now I'm going to go, this is plus times 2, and times 2 of what? Greg's age. So I know it's Greg's age, and they told me to use G for Greg's age. So here I have part of the expression, okay? I just need to put it together a little bit nicer. So 14 plus, instead of 2 times G like this, I'm just going to write 2G. Because again, that means multiplication when I squish them together. It means I have Greg's age twice. 2 times Greg's age. All right, so now we have 42 decreased by, so this is telling me what I'm going to be doing with 42. So decreased by, if I go over here to subtracted, I've decreased by, so I know I'm going to be doing subtraction. So what is it decreased by? Twice. We know that that's times 2 again. We just did that. Victor's age. So, and Victor's age, they asked me to use a V for Victor's age. So now I have 42 minus 2V. All right. So this is translating a sentence or phrase into either a 1-step or 2-step equation or expression. So there's quite a few vocabulary words there. So go ahead and go on, Alex, and give it a try.